everyone. I am here to talk to you about, I don't know truthfully if there's an actual name to this Oracle deck. I will put a link to it down below because it's a little bit confusing because it's more of a series of art cards. There's not a guidebook to it. It is by the artist is, her website is Elizabeth on Earth. And so I'll put a link to it below. It comes out in different sets. So there are 3 different sets of her artwork sort of put onto these oracle or meditation cards, or however you want to use them. And so I had been given from somebody's personal collection, I had been given the first 2 of the cards, so the first 2 sets of the cards. And at first, I'll be honest, I was like, oh, those are probably not something that I would use. I want to talk about those, so I'll leave those out. Those are probably not something I would use very much. I don't tend to overly love the style of art in Oracle decks, although sometimes it's really powerful. And, you know, there's a lot of sort of female characters in here, just kind of, it on first glance, you know, if I was just sifting through here, it's like, oh, well, there's just a lot of female characters here kind of doing random things. Like this probably, you know, isn't particularly a deck that I would use, but I've actually found that first impression, and that was just based on my experience with other Oracle decks that use this sort of surrealist, almost like collaged surrealist style artwork, which can be beautifully done like this is. This is really to the level of an artist doing this work rather than just kind of things thrown together willy-nilly on Photoshop. So this is definitely an amazingly done deck, but I just thought it's probably not a deck that I would necessarily use. But I have actually found that to not be the case. I've really had some profound personal readings with this deck, or with these 2 decks combined, and in particular, I have had the mother card. Not surprising if you know me. Obviously, I'm a mother, but I'm also a mother who's lost a child, and that comes with its own set of things to continually deal with. And so in terms of grief work and things of this nature, which I've used this for a lot of kind of healing work for myself, this card, this mother card, which is such an interesting depiction of mother, right? We see many mother cards in Oracle decks, but I don't think I've ever seen a card like this, and it is it's shown up over and over and over again to a crazy degree, right? Not just to once or twice, like, oh yeah, that's, you know, of course, you know, that's going to happen. But no, like over and over and over again, this card shows up for me. It's actually part of a 3-part series, which is the Maiden, of course, who's much more freely just sort of grabbing onto the moon and kind of spinning. You just have that youthful energy. The Mother, who is very tied to this cycle of birth and life and death, and the different cycles of the ages and what it means to be a mother across the different cycles. It's different being a mother of a baby, and it's different being a mother of a toddler, and it's different being mother of grade school and high school and adults, and so on and so forth, right? There's such a way in which motherhood is tied to this cycles, that's so powerful to me. And then of course the crone, who sort of breaks the cycles and sets outside of it, and she's not holding on to it anymore, but still perfectly attuned and alignment with it. I think these are absolutely stunning cards. This is the one that shows. I haven't gotten either one of these cards in a reading for myself. I have just gotten this one over and over again. But these are just so powerful, and I've just really fallen in love with this deck. And I think, I don't remember how it came about, but I think I had done a reading with it, and somebody had asked me, you know, what was that deck, and so I had told them, oh, Miss Jamie had asked me about it, and we saw that it was out of print right now. I'm not saying she's not going to get it, but it was out of print to be able to get the third, because I didn't need the whole set. I just needed the third one. And in fact, I think it was out of print to get any of the cards. So right now you may not be able to get them. But I told her, I said, you know, I would just message, I follow her on Instagram because I love, if you are on Instagram, I would recommend following her on Instagram because it's really neat. She shows how she sets up some of the shots and things, and the photo, you know, so you see the actual photography and setting up sort of the model to be photographed, and then of course how that would morph into the art piece by the end. And it's really interesting. It's given me quite a fascination with and appreciation for the art form. I love this one, End of the Earth, heading into the moon. We'll look at these in a minute. But anyway, so I have, oh, anyway, so yeah, so I said message her. And so she messaged her, and she did have some defective, and I say that very loosely. Sometimes when we get, you know, if we are deck creators and we order a bunch of decks, we will get decks that are not in perfect condition. I had that problem with my first set of Lenormand. There were quite a few of them that I had to sort of mix and match to get perfect sets, but then I was left with certain decks that had very minimal. It wasn't anything that was big, but still you can't sell those right at full price because they have some defect on them. And down the road when I refound them, I just resold them at a discounted price, really showing what they are. And that she said she had some of these offshoots, I don't know what you call them, but with minor defects that she would sell to Jamie. And I was like, oh, I'm going to message her to see if she has the third one like that, because that's all I need is the third one. And so I had messaged her, and of course she had already gotten the message from Jamie and I think somebody else as well. And so she said she did have an offset, I don't know if that's the right word for it, but a defective set that she would be happy to send to me, which was so sweet. I have opened this briefly. I haven't looked closely, but I couldn't find anything. And I think Jamie had said the same thing. She had sent a picture of them, and I think maybe there was a little bit of chipping on the bottom. I don't know. We couldn't really see much wrong with them. This is not an offset, this one is, so we'll take a look closer. But anyways, if you're interested in this deck, I would just message her, not about the defective ones, but to see, I think you could put your name in for being notified when they came back into print if there's something that interests you. But it is a set of 3 decks that I've combined the 2 decks, and you can buy them either separately or as a set of the 3 of them together right when she has them in stock. So that's a lot of intro, I know. Please don't tell me about it, I know. Let's see, what does this say here? These are just, I think, came with each of the sets. I have to hold it out because I don't have my glasses on. Cards for your personal reflection to be used in perfect love and perfect truth. Know that all of the answers you seek already exist within you. The cards only help you to discover what is hidden beneath the conscious surface. Art may take on a different meaning from one viewing to the next. Expand your awareness, open your heart, embrace abundance, practice joy and gratitude, love yourself, be honest with yourself, and write your own beautiful story. Use these cards wisely as guides, not gospel, and empower yourself to be the sole creator of your own life. So I think that was really nice. These are the backs with a silhouette of a bird, which if you know me, I love that. These are mixed up. I have absolutely no clue which of these go from set 1 or set 2. Again, if you're interested in getting them separately, I would just, you know, go to the link below and go to her website and check those things out, because it does not come with any kind of guidebook. There isn't a PDF or anything. It's just the cards and the titles on it. It's meant to be read intuitively with the image and the keyword. And so I don't know which of these were in the first, you know, versus the second set at all. There are also, because I think these are art cards more so, you know, that's how they started out, as paintings and art. There are a couple which I will try to pull out. Of course, now we're just going to look through them all, that have like a 1 and a 2 of the same sort of picture. Let me see if I can find, I don't want to, we are going to flip through these, but there are a set of Dryads which are really beautiful. Oh, here's an example. Here is the Home Away, and then a Home Away 2, and a Home Away 3. So obviously I would just pick one of those to have actually in the guide, or in the, if you're using this deck. And I think that's the, oh, let me see, I thought there was one other one that had one in it. Oh yes, the Sea Spirit. Now these I'm actually have for the most part kept in place because I think they have different energy. So I think let's just do this. This is a set, this is a set. I know we're just talking here. I'm just getting on to play, and I have cheese on my table. That's lovely. So let's zoom in here because we don't have a guidebook to look at. And so we can go ahead and zoom in. I'm gonna find the other cards I'm looking for and come right back and zoom in. Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and open this up too, because I want to see if there's any sets in this one. So it came wrapped with a beautiful piece of yarn. My sister, actually, this type of yarn, I can't remember what it's called, but my sister used to love to make lots of scarves out of. That was one of her favorites. It's so soft. It came with a beautiful piece of fabric that's beautifully woven, and she had put a note on the back of this little card that it's big enough to put all 3 in, so I'm excited about that. So of course we have another one of those cards, and so those, you know, will get put away in my pile of cards. I'm just going to quickly go through here and see if there are any other sets like that, just so that we can talk about them. I don't want to really look at these too close because I haven't looked, so I'm just kind of looking at the bottom. No, I don't see any other sets in here, so okay. I just wanted to, that way we could talk about all of the sets. I'm going to keep these a little bit separate here. We're being a little messy. We're playing. It is fun to play with cards. Okay, so there is a set of Dryads. We have, let's just go in even closer and just take a look at these. We have the Dryad of Self-Empowerment, the Dryad of Death and Rebirth, the Dryad of Kinship. I love the mushrooms here. The Dryad of Nurture, and the Dryad of Renewal. So we have those, and they all have, you know, tree branches and obviously a woman, because that's what a Dryad is, a fae blend of tree and female fae creature. So we can kind of see where this arms are turning into branches. Same thing here. I love that her arms are wrapped around the tree, because of course the mushrooms then are often grow on the tree. So we have that merging there. And this is almost more like vines and things that are just she's part of. And then we have the renewal, sort of a spring energy there. So yeah, so there's those Dryads. I quite love these cards, but it's kind of like a little set there. Like I said, there is a set of these 3 which are the same: Home Away, Home Away, Home Away. Now you do have different skies, so you could keep them all in here. Most of them have like a person in the window that's very faint in this one. This is probably my favorite of all 3 of them. Although I do like this because of the porch and they're kind of sitting in the doorway looking. So this idea of, you know, kind of your home is where what you bring with you is kind of the feeling that I get from this. You could probably find some nuances as to why to keep all three. I'm going to keep this one in myself just because I quite like the porch and I like the leaning on the doorway like that. So there's that set. There's another set like that with these sea spirits. Now this one I actually keep all three in, and that is because, so it's actually 1, 2, and 3, but what I like about this is there's a directionality here. And so there is this sense of just looking out to sea here. There's a sense of longing that's here. It's a different atmosphere. This one is like moving out to sea, literally, whereas this one is moving away from the ocean. And I do feel like that would have a different nuance, meaning of each of the cards because of that, those different orientations there. And so those three, I actually, of the set, I actually will keep in all together in the deck. And then of course this is a set, but these are different images, and I already showed you those and talked about those with the Maiden, Mother, and Crone. And I like the light to medium to dark even on the title page, or title bar at the bottom. So that's a set that I love, that I will keep, obviously keep into the deck. So let's do a quick flip through. I'm gonna first do a quick flip through of the, okay, and now I'm confused. Let's see. This one, yeah, this is the new set. Okay, I should have known that just by the thickness, but okay. Let's take a look at, this is the first and the second set. Again, they are in no order, a particular order, and they are not in, I have no clue what are first and the second decks. So, of course, we talked about the Maiden, the Mother, the Crone, absolutely beautiful. We talked about the sea spirits going away, going towards the ocean, and just looking out to ocean. It's a very, this is, if I kept one, it would be this one, because I've gotten this card a lot as well, but I keep all three in. Again, we talked about the home away. Let me just show you really closely the three options. So that is one, that is one, and I love the sky in this one a lot, and I like the person in the window. So for me, it's kind of a tie between these two, but I love the porch, and I love her leaning in the door, so I'm going to keep that one for now. I can always switch it up later. Then the Dryads, which we talked about, but I'll just flip through them quickly so that you can see them up close. Again, her skill at these kind of, I don't know what the, I guess I should message her and ask her, like, what is the proper term for this? But this, you know, working through Photoshop to create surrealistic art through a blending of photographs is basically what we're getting here. And it's just beautifully, beautifully done. I don't think you get, I'll see, but it's mostly, I think it's all photograph blending, not necessarily, like this is really beautifully done. So this is the card for permission, and we have her almost like a mannequin. This is like a mix between a person and a dress form, right? You know, it's this has a lot of nuance to this, to me, that speaks a lot more to dressing up for other people's expectations, creating your identity, giving yourself permission to build your own identity, or dress make your own identity. That combination of what I see of as a dressmaker's form and a real human body, I think has a lot of places that you can go in a reading. Here we have Invocation. Very energetic, moving, flowing is a very almost passionate feel to it. The keywords I just look at as sort of suggestions, but I don't consider them to lock me into it, because it really does, they shift depending on the cards that they're with. I have only ever used this to pull 3 cards, and I've used it in conjunction with other decks as well. I find it works surprisingly well. I wouldn't have guessed this, but this is my friend Patrick's astrology cards. And so I find this to be really beautiful in conjunction with this deck, where I'll pull sort of, okay, the sun is in, Aries in the 3rd house, and then pull 3 cards. And it actually works really beautifully with this deck. And there's such different decks, but for some reason, that's been a deck that has, it's really worked beautifully with. But I've mostly just pulled 3 cards for myself, and I don't feel bound by that. It just, I'm more paying attention to the image, to be honest, than the title. You could certainly cut the titles off if you wanted to and re-round the corner. It of course would drop this from being centered, but it wouldn't be a problem to do that. But I find them to be down at the bottom. They're unobtrusive. I just don't feel bound by them at all. So, they don't bother me to be there. I really, for this particular deck, a lot of times for me, the keywords are the most important, or the titles. But in this deck, because I think the surrealistic style of the art, I get more of my hits from the images from this one than the keywords. I love this is the Edelweiss, which is the farewell, right? I look at the bird up here. There are 2 birds here. We have her looking out with a lantern. Of course, I have to start singing Edelweiss every time I see it. Where the wind blows, a bed on water with a sail. Lucidity. Are you lucid dreaming? I think of lucid dreaming with that one. I already showed you this. I love the end of the earth here. Beyond impediments. You can see all of this would be kind of tangling you up and stopping you from being able to go forward. These birds are just soaring over those impediments. I love it. I did want to start some piles. You know me and my piles. Okay, we've got the Chakra card for chakra energy. Late Summer Dance is so beautiful. The Hideout, I love this. Who doesn't want to find that little barn out there to hide out in? No More Games. Now this is a little bit more collagey than some. It does have, a lot of times it's more what feels like mixes of photographs, whereas this does have chess pieces and things of that nature, like a little paper hat and the mask there. So you do have more of definitely an Alice in Wonderland-y feel to this one, and a bit of a mix. It's just really well done. She does an amazing job with her art form, and they're not always this well done, and this is a treat. What we see, I see a fairy. Some people might see a guardian angel or a fairy godmother. Fly is beautiful. I love the multiple moons. I love the unexpected helicopter. We have, birds and the moon and the lovely lady in white, and we expect all of those things in some ways, but we don't expect that random helicopter there. And I really love that little twist there. That card has come up in quite an interesting ways, right? That even though we may not have the ability naturally to fly as human beings, we sometimes if we need to fly, we can make that opportunity to fly. And so I quite love that. That was a neat one. I didn't even notice that until I had gotten it in a particular reading. Listen is absolutely beautiful. Just stop, be quiet, and listen. Underhill Road. I haven't gotten this one in a reading. I'm just trying to think here to see what I would necessarily do with this particular one. This is one of the ones that when I first kind of was flipping through it, I was like, I'm not sure what I would do with that. I love the image. I love the red, weathered red of the building. I love the, that being corresponded in her dress here. I'm not sure. It's like, it's that, almost has a kipper feel where you're going up the hill, because there is that sense of going upwards here. And so it does have that idea of being on the road to moving upwards. That's probably what I would do with that one. Again, it's completely open, and it might change depending on the cards that came next to it. The Ghost, love it. When life hands you lemons, you know, of course, that's saying, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to sit there with the bitterness of it, or are you going to make lemonade? This, of course, makes me think of the song, The Yellow Lemon Tree. Oh, now it's going to be stuck. I've got it. Da 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 da, and all that I can see is just a yellow lemon tree, something like that. I don't even know what it's called, but that's what's going on in my head there. I turn my head up and down, I turn, I turn, I turn, I turn, I turn it around, and all that I can see, something like that. I'll probably get, this whole thing will get blanked for that. Surprise date. This, to me, we're gonna take a peek. It's a bird. I think that's like a, it looks almost like a seagull. Sometimes if I can't see what's up, I will take a picture of it with my phone so that I can zoom in. See, it looks, I'm going to ask her, I don't know if that is a bird, or is that like a flying saucer, or it doesn't, I'm not sure what that is. Is that two birds coming together? Even zoomed in, I'm like, I'm not sure. Which again is what leaves it open. Like that could be like, whoa, you're out there in nature. Oops, you can't even see the image. Whoa, you're out there in nature, and all of a sudden, you know, a spacecraft is coming to land. Or that is probably two birds that are coming together, and only crazy me sees that. Whatever, that's what leaves it open. Waiting for the phone to ring. I think this is really beautiful. She's got one of those old style phones. We can see the telephone towers in that past, and that's sort of when you're waiting for a message. I really like that one. The bare bones of winter. I love the greenhouse in the distance, covered in snow. Lots of birds in her deck, of course, which I love. The passerby. Healing, I love this. The ocean for me is very much about healing. This one has come up a lot for me. I think it's really beautiful. Catching the light. I love the fishing pole catching, literally like instead of ice fishing, she's like fishing for light in the earth. Her big day. All the seagulls. But look at the tail. Do you see that? Did you see that at first, or did you not see it right away? Because sometimes you could just see this beautiful woman in a dress. But is she coming out of the water to meet her prince? Or is she going back into the water when she realizes where her true home is? It depends. The path. I love this. There's that split in the path there. I love path cards. The herbalist. Plant magic. This is a different one. This one is similar to this. It's a little bit in terms of style, because we do have these sort of little doll-like figures and little doll kind of, or mask, or clay mask faces, and then the graveyard there. I do love this card as the Watchers. This could be an ancestor card for sure. Just really fascinating, but it's definitely different than the other style. And you see that some of these here as well, where this I love. This is the caged bird. I mean, come on, that is so beautiful. But this almost looks like a blend of painting and photographs, where it may be multiple photographs. I don't know, because she does such a good job. But you have a little bit of those extra things like the cage and things like that. It's just beautiful though. The Rider, I love that card. Truce, holding out instead of the olive branch, the apple for the black bear. Walk with me. The kingdom of old. I love the castle in the background, kind of longing for what was before. The empty nest. Things are starting to fly away, and what are we going to do with that energy? The gift. Against time. I do love this. There are some, I wouldn't say negative cards, but there are definitely cards that speak to healing and liminal spaces and more. Not everything is happy, joy, joy, and really fighting against time in this one. Float, just let things ride. This one shows up for me a lot. Once Upon a Time, again, this is that one style. I love it, absolutely love it. See Me, again, the airplane here instead of a helicopter. I really love this. A whole bunch of people that are up in there, right? There's so much you can do with that juxtaposition. You just don't think in this style of artwork to see an airplane. And so that type of thing sort of jolts you into other meanings when it comes up, I have found. Time capsule, being in a time sand, what are those called? Hourglass. So many things you could do with that. Here we have a rough patch. This is going to be difficult terrain to get through, and then there's a big chasm here. This is definitely a rough patch. Love. The Lost Girl is really beautiful. There's a darkness. There's a dark cloud right over her head, feeling there. And then Everlasting Light, which is beautiful. So I'm just going to zoom out for a second before we go look at the rest of them. But you can see that the most of the cards, the majority of the cards, have a female image as sort of the main image of course, other things going on. But it definitely is a feminine, female form oriented deck. There's no question, which is one of the reasons why I thought, I don't tend to gravitate to those types of deck, but I have found this to be, yeah, as I've already said, surprised. This is one of those ones that snuck up and, you know, grabbed me. Similar to, I've had two in the last little bit, similar to The Magic of You, although this is very fey feeling. But this is a bunch of, you know, interesting surrealist, so maybe it's the surrealist art that's getting to me. A lot of female forms in surrealistic art that I wouldn't normally be drawn to, but this deck has been so powerful, and so has this. So I've had to kind of eat my words on that. And again, some of this I understand just because the artwork is so beautifully done that it's enchanting. But as you can see, out of the two decks that this encompasses, the majority is like that. There are a number that don't, I mean, there is a person in there, but the you know, nature is a bit more the prominent, these sort of nature scenes and birds and things like that are there. So there's a nice chunk like that. And then there are just a few that are sort of step into this more collage sort of aspect with different objects and things like that. There's just a few like that. Part of me would have initially said, oh, you know, probably just take those out because they don't blend with the rest, but they actually do. Her art style, everything really goes well together, and they don't feel like they stick out when mixed into a reading. Again, I don't believe, and I could be wrong, but I don't believe this was artwork created for a deck. She's an artist, and these are her art pieces, and they, you know, they just work beautifully in that format. So that's my take on it anyways. So this is the third pack that I've just gotten. I haven't been able to see these. I haven't really looked closely through these yet. And again, I don't know what's, let me kind of line them up here. I'm not sure. And I know there were different amounts of damage on the ones. You can see a little bit of a divot where these were kind of cut. And I don't think you see that in the top of this. Yeah, so these are totally smooth. I mean, this is really me just trying to figure out what it would be. You can feel that there was a little bit of something right there, but that's the only thing I can really see. So to me, personally, I think she could have sold these for full price. But again, I know there were other ones with different damages. But this is Welcome Home, which is beautiful. The migration, I love having a migration card. These are big shifts in patterns, right? This is a big cycle shift. And it also has that innate instinctualness that has to do with in migrations. I feel like there's a lot that could come up with. Love the kindred with the tree and the birds. I think I love having a kindred card because I love Anne of Green Gables, kindred spirits, but I love that the tree is nature based, and this is beautiful. Oh, this to me just looks like a photograph that has kind of blended into a beautiful nature painting style. Absolutely gorgeous. Contemplation. Cameo appearance. We can see almost something. Now it's funny because that's like a bird or a stork or something, or a heron almost kind of flying out. But then I also, when I first looked at it, I kind of saw a whale emerging, which is not what's there. But that's the beauty of this type of deck. Cameo appearance. The weight of snowflakes. Now think about that. Cold and ice. Every single one is different. Like, what would you go with that? What does it mean to have such a light thing, which is a snowflake, but then think about it in terms of weight? I think that is really interesting. And I love when this type of thing where you don't, depending on your question and depending on what you're coming in, you just sort of see what triggers into mind. Wash over me. I love that she has almost like the dishwashing gloves on. And then she's got the sheet almost like she's doing laundry, but she has just run off, and now she it's now more to do with washing over her. And this really speaks to me of an experience that I had. That's one of those profound moments in life of a wall of rain coming and washing over me and just zipping by. And it really was a fundamental shift occurred for me in that moment. And so of course this speaks to me of that. It's not going to speak to everybody, but it speaks to me of that. I'm going to try to make the same piles, but kind of keep them separate. Here we have Uncharted. Somebody is in a nest she can't see. She has belongings and a feather. This is obviously like a little this feels like Thumbelina to me, and I love Thumbelina. And she's kind of going off into things unknown, and she can't even see where she's going. Love this. This would go into this pile. Tipping the scales. Love it. The seabird landed on the scale. Everything is so balanced, and then you've got this bird come in and kind of start to unhinge and unbalance things. Sorry, it's kind of twisting on my board. I love this star polish. There is a really, if you have the Disney Plus channel, which I am a huge fan of, I know I am sucked into the world of Disney, but I have, there is a little short. There's a whole bunch of little short films in there, like Pixar shorts. Just go watch them all. Every single one of them is absolutely amazing. But there is one of where they're kind of going and cleaning up the stars that are falling on the moon. And this makes me think of it. I love this. Here we have a relic where we have sort of bones. We have a vulture there on top of it. Oops, sorry, I'm trying to make some piles. Procession. Interesting with the hair over her face and the feathers. And she does an amazing job with body postures. I love this once in a lifetime. Everybody's lined up here. Animals, birds, people are lined up to see this once in a lifetime occurrence. I think that's really cool. Lost and Found. I love the gate that's just standing there. And it looks like he's bringing back, I see a sword, but it could be, who knows what it is, because I'd have to zoom in on it. But it can be whatever your represents to you. Here we have a lesson to be learned. I was a different person then, sort of looking back at what you were in the past. The Plain Sight, seeing clearly. Imagine, she's holding like a fishbowl, but she's in the winter time, and we've got the birds. You know, your imagination can literally go wild. How Sweet the Hum. So this has a very honeybees feel to it. We've got the honey scoop there. So this can be that hum of busyness and doing work, or the hum of a thriving community. There's a lot that you could do there. The Greatest Show on Earth, which I love. I love the ostrich peeking over. That feels like more over this pile. Forsythia Leviosa, sort of this magic here, and she's sort of disappearing into butterflies. I'm not sure what I would do with that. I would wait and see what comes up. I love the fledgling. Sometimes we have to fault in order to learn how to fly. I love that. This is probably, I saw this when I was zipping through. This is probably not one of my favorites, just because the style is a little bit more obvious of the blending. I feel like these two here sort of stand out from her other works. Not that they aren't really cool as art pieces, but I do feel like these stand out differently than the rest of the deck. Those might stand out there. I love the Counting Crows, gorgeous. I love the Collector. Look at the suitcase full of rocks and the making of the labyrinth, beautiful, the pathway forward, love that. The Benevolent World, sort of everything is just wonderful. These three feel like they were probably made in the same sort of art sequence. Benevolent World, May Timid Wings Awaken, so you can go somewhere different with that. And then the Kaleidoscope that is here, but it's almost this disappearance though too into the pattern. So these are obviously come from, I think, the same sort of cycle of paintings or cycle of artwork, but they do have very different meanings to them, which I think are beautiful. So in terms of, let me zoom back out, in terms of that third, obviously again we see the most of those were that style of sort of the female form being there. We have a few more of the beautiful artistic naturescape kind of feel, and I'm glad there were a few more of those to add into the few more that were there. And then there were a couple more of these that feel a little bit more like this style of almost collage style, but still I think beautifully, because some of these could go that way as well, like this one could really go there. So I think it blends really well with the rest of the deck anyways. With these two, to me, of the new decks sort of standing out, this one is Destined for Greatness. The crown just a little bit too stuck there for me. And you know, this is cute. I think it is adorable, but it just stands out a little bit differently. And of course, she's an artist. She's allowed to have changes, and these kind of go together well. So I'll leave them in for now and see how they come up in terms of readings. So that's the kind of set, or the types of cards that you have in there. But again, these same three types were in the two decks, and I found that they blended really beautifully together. So I don't even know, I'll be honest with you, I have no idea how many are in each of the sets, and if it's the same, I'll have to go look that up. But I have the link below, so I don't know what size of a deck this is. The only thing that I have removed, they shuffle beautifully because it's great kind of playing card stock, kind of Llewellyn card stock, that type of thing. I would guess that this is probably Make Playing cards, which I actually love the shuffle of Make Playing cards, but it's that type of, it doesn't feel like, I don't like the feel of Game Crafter cardstock unless they've improved it. Now, I haven't gotten a deck from them in a long time, so they may have improved it. Make Playing cards definitely stepped up their core, their stock. And this to me kind of feels like that kind of stock. It's great for a riffle shuffler. It holds up really well. And so it's really quite beautiful. Let me just put out here and let's pull 3 cards on this beautiful purple cloth. I'm going to give it some good shuffling here so that the new and the old can come together. Again, the way that I've been using this, and I've used this quite a lot for myself, is just that sort of what do I need to hear right now, just 3 cards. A little more on the shadow work side, although I feel like everything that we're continually in the process of shadow work, or I am. So I don't tend to like try to be specific about I'm sitting down to do shadow work, but that sort of internal grief work for me, I'm feeling something is feeling a little bit off. I definitely have pulled this deck in that case of grief work. Something just feels off and I just need to reorient myself, or there's a message for me, but I'm just not entirely sure what is the answer to and or what I need to hear. That's the kind of question that has come up from me. Home away for number 1, the ghost, and walk with me. So this is really beautiful because we have that message. Now I tend to when I just pull 3 cards like this randomly, I do tend to look to the middle one as being sort of a important message to pay attention to, and the others sort of add on to that. And so the ghost being the main message are those things that are unseen, right? Things that have passed on, or some people think of ghosts as energies that are still hanging around because there's unfinished business that's there, right? We think about ghosts in that way. So the idea of that feeling of not being fully in the world, but not being fully into the next world either. So being in that in-between space there, and being having the reminder that my home is wherever I make it. Wherever I am, I can find structure and stability, even if it's on the ocean, right? And so come walk with me. Let's just keep walking forward. So that's kind of the type of message that I don't spend a ton of time with it in terms of really analyzing. It's just something will come every time. Something that I need to hear comes forward from the message. Just letting that, whatever that is, come forward. There's not a right and a wrong answer to it. It sometimes goes with the keywords, but it doesn't have to. It's just whatever is going to come forward. And so that's, again, you can, obviously everybody's going to use decks very differently, but that's how I have found this combination of the first 2 decks. Again, I haven't used the extra cards in it, but I know just seeing what they are, that they're going to work very similarly and kind of enter into that same space of that feel of this deck. So I hope that you've enjoyed this. I know this is one of the ones that some people like the style and other people really do not, where I'm just kind of going through and sort of sussing out my own self, why is something perhaps working for me when it may be on first glance not the type of deck that I would gravitate towards. I would not have purchased this deck. Again, somebody had sent it to me from their collection with some other decks, and I wouldn't have purchased this deck, and I would have missed out on something that has really been quite healing for me. I did purchase this one, and I don't know if this, I'm trying to remember. I think I already had this, so maybe that's why I took a risk on this one. But it's the same sort of thing. Like sometimes it's going outside of your normal decks that you might use, or going outside of your normal art style that you particularly love. That shift into something that's just a little bit outside of your space can really take you then sometimes. Now sometimes it doesn't, but sometimes it does have that opportunity to then really offer something that you don't have, or offer it in a way that can be really powerful, and I've definitely found that in the case of this deck. So there you have it. I hope that this helps you in some way. Again, I'll put a link. I don't think as of putting this deck, this video up, I don't believe that any of the decks are available right now. Again, I would sign up to be told when they are available if you're interested. You might also contact her, and she might not be very happy that I'm saying this, because she's going to get a lot of questions. But she may have some more of the offset ones as well. I don't know. So this is just me kind of exploring this deck with you. So I hope that you've enjoyed it, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I thought I would show you real quick. That cloth indeed does work just fine for all three of the decks. I just kind of I should have tied this. Obviously there's probably a way to tie this properly, but I just tucked this in and wrapped it around. So we're going backwards but this is a great thing. I have a couple, well, I don't have a couple. I have one other deck I think I have wrapped like this. It was a deck that I combined as well that wasn't made to combine. But if you just kind of put it like in the middle of the diamond shape, right, you can just, you can snugly, actually I have one that came like this, the Slow Holler does this as well. And then I did one with one that I combined a couple art cards with. Anyways, and then just kind of fold it up like a present, nice and neat. And then I just took, I'm sure there's a way to tie it and like tie it with a bow, but this is long enough where just kind of wrapping it around and tucking it under holds it really nice and snug. So that is a great way if you don't have boxes or bags or something and you don't have any sewing skills. You get some of this nice thick fabric and cut that, and you can use that as a wrap. It's a quite beautiful and simple way to be able to keep a deck. So there you go. Just thought I'd throw that in there real quick so that you could see that.